Going now.
Fly, cheat, steal, kill, win, win. Fly, cheat, steal, kill, win, win. Everybody doing it.
Everybody's doing it tonight on the Push to Shout podcast.
Doing
Starring two well, they're all just getting down from their high after consuming our new content. Because we both made new content.
Sure did.
God, I feel so alive. I feel like I could take on the world. I could run. No. Okay. I looped back because I had it open, so immediately I just got brought back to earth there. Welcome to
You'll
Push
never
Show.
learn.
I never will. But I think that's part of the charm, is how terrible it is. I got a new microphone too. You can see it here.
That.
It might fuck up at some point, but if it doesn't, that would be really cool.
You're
What I've
using
noticed,
it the right way.
am I?
You know, a lot of people
What's
they
the
get
right
those
way?
mics. Well, a lot of people get those mics and they point it directly towards them, which is apparently not where the
Like this.
receiver actually. Well, no, I mean that's the correct side, but doing it directly from where it's pointing is apparently the wrong way to do it.
You mean
I
to
don't
do it
know.
from
I
the
don't know
top?
anything about this shit? Yeah, like people will point it at them.
Oh. Yeah,
Like
it's
yours is at a slant, but it's not pointed
the
directly
same-
at you.
it's the same mic pattern. I forget what they actually call it, but it's a cardioid shape. So it
Yeah.
kind of balloons out in a little butt or a heart shape at the front of the mic. I like it. It's pretty cool. And it's the first mic I've ever owned that is not USB. This is an XLR mic that is plugged into a XLR to USB interface. So there's like a device there in the middle, and it's kind of great because I can see this little colored circle that lights up different colors depending on if my mic is like peaking or something.
Tells you when you're hot.
It does. We're
I need
running
that.
hot.
I'm
We're
always
running hot.
I'm always running hot.
Yes, this is a very hot cast, and we got some hot guests like Hot Skip. Skippy, what did you do
not a
with your
guest.
hot self?
When have I ever not been on this podcast?
Actually, there was one that I wasn't on. That was 32.5
Yes,
or
there
something.
was.
Yeah. So I'm the guest here.
So if anything, you're the guest.
I'll
even
defer to
though
you. What you take it away. Tell us something.
Well, this week I've been playing some games. I've been watching some movies. You want to hear about that?
I do actually. I have done very little myself. So yeah, anything to fill the
Except
air.
making that video.
That's true. Yeah, I do want to talk about that.
I
That's
also
fun.
wrote an article, and then you one-upped me on the same day by putting out a video. I thought, like, God, this would probably make a
Unrelated.
pretty good video, but
Unrelated.
I'm too lazy to make a video out of it, so I just wrote it. And plus, I wanted to get it out really quick, or else I would never finish it.
Yes, that is a
Um,
major, very real problem.
Exactly. But I've also just been wasting my time on video games, such as Civ 5.
Yeah, I saw you playing that.
Civ 6 is coming out, or is already out. I'm not sure.
I think it. Wait, is it?
I don't
I
know.
think
I'm
I heard a similar thing that it like was already out, and I hadn't heard about it. That was surprised
I'm
me.
probably going to hold off on buying it either way, because that's what you do with Civ games. You wait for them to come out with the expansion packs, and then you buy them on sale.
21st it comes out. Anyway, go on.
And so I've been playing Civ 5 because I've got that itch after I've seen it discussed and stuff like that. And I'm getting my ass handed to me by a bunch of AI. It's not good. It's a little bit embarrassing.
Now,
Because like the first time I ever played Civ 5, I think I put it on normal difficulty or the difficulty lower to that. And I never finished the game, but I was fine. Like it got to the point where there were two big nations, me and another big nation, and we had absorbed all the other ones, and we were just fighting each other. And I kind of got burnt out on it and stopped playing. And then when I picked it up this week, I put it on normal difficulty and just got my ass handed to me. Got completely destroyed. Like,
you kind of need a plan going in. If you're playing on a
do.
normal difficulty or above, you need a rough sketch of, okay, how am I going to play the long con of this match?
you also, I've learned, need to pay attention each turn to what you're actually doing and the effects of it, because I was wasting so much shit. I was like, I was just, I mean, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I was producing things I didn't need to produce that just costed me money, and founding cities where I shouldn't have, and just all these newbie mistakes because I'm not very experienced with the game. And I thought I was doing really well until the empire next to me just suddenly surrounded one of my cities instantly and destroyed it. And I ended up fighting them back enough to like destroy them, and then realized I was way behind, like culturally, technologically, everything
Yeah.
to all the other empires because they hadn't been fucking around while I have been just
War in that
really
game.
inefficiently working and warring with this faction that didn't even matter.
War in that game grinds everything else to a halt. In some
Exactly.
ways, that's kind of good because you don't
It's
want
great.
it to
It's
just turn
realistic.
into. Well, yeah. Well, not really though, because there's really not that much innovation that happens in wars in Civ 5. Like normally, war kind of spurs on accelerated
Well, sure,
technological
yeah.
growth, but in Civ, everything kind of stops, and you're just stuck warring until the war ends. And in the meantime, you have more military units, which then cost more to maintain. So all productivity, all happiness, everywhere goes down. And there's really no, like, the gains from war are purely military and like geographically strategic of claiming territory. and
There's
that
a
kind of
time
thing.
for it, and you have to. Sometimes you have to get lucky because like I tried it up again on an easier difficulty just to like fuck around, and very very early on, the empire next to me just had a way bigger army than me and just started surrounding me, and then I got picked on by the empire on the other side of me, so I was fighting on two fronts, and it was just like, well, this sucks. So there's definitely a matter of luck of like if you just get stuck between two really war-mongering nations, then you're just fucked.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it. It's Civ, but I'm too much of a newbie to know how to do that shit. But
Now-
I'm still really enjoying it.
That game, I was just recently, I say recently, it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, recent enough. I was doing multiplayer Civ 5, and
Yep.
that is such a mixed bag. Because yeah, on the one hand, it's really fun and so cool, and the idea works. What made this match particularly cool is that we did Mumble's Whisper feature. Did you ever actually use that for any
Oh, all the
productive
time.
ends? Oh, you
Yeah,
did?
a bad feeling. We used all of Mumble's feature, like we used positional audio and everything. Mumble's actually
Oh, yeah,
really
you
cool
guys-
when you really explore its functionality.
You guys, yeah, you seem like the crowd who really would have leveraged everything Mumble had to offer.
Yeah.
But here we don't really do that much. And it was just so cool because we teamed up. It was just 2v2 Civ on a relatively small map and just some city-states, no AI. And we were able to, like, scheme and plan with each other while also talking shit. It's so cool,
Yeah.
the push-to-whisper button. And, so yeah, on the one hand, it's this awesome, like, backstabbing, and I'm, like, inching forward with my settlers to try to claim this little piece next to your capital, and, oh, do you
Yeah.
really want to go to war over that and bog down
And
the rest of the
diplomacy
game? Like,
becomes real, where
Yeah,
like you can actually
that's the most
negotiate
important
things
thing.
that are more abstract.
the most important
Um,
thing, especially, and
yeah.
this is the essential feature that you need, the option that you need if you're going to play multiplayer Civ, you have to set the resource distribution to strategic, because that, it changes the whole game, honestly. It means that some people have no iron near them at all,
Right.
and other people have no horses near them at all, or very little food, and it becomes like an actual necessity to either trade with your allies or to take over territory. Like you need that incentive underpinning the game. Anyway, so that's all cool. Like multiplayer Civ 5, it's a very, very cool experience. But I have never finished a game
No.
because, oh my god, how could you ever? It takes it's rare for us to even progress out of the ancient age when we play multiplayer Civ. I mean,
I've
because
gotten
that,
well out of the ancient age, but not further than that.
if you're playing with a strict timer and you really have all night to play, then you can get like medieval, going on colonial, if you really are barreling through. But yeah, that was not so much the case when we played, and it's not so much the case most times that I've tried doing that. It just
Yeah.
takes so long, especially if war starts. That's the worst part about it, I'd say. Like, you would
Yeah.
want, ideally, you would want the multiplayer war to be as interesting as all the other multiplayer diplomacy, which, the multiplayer diplomacy is way more interesting than anything in the single-player game, I think.
Of course.
But the war is absolute misery, and not just for the people participating in the war, but for everyone in the game, because it changes the timer system now, so that the warring
Does it?
players have to take turns one after another. Normally, you can kind of move around the map all at the same time, and once you've run out of
Oh,
moves,
okay,
then the
yeah.
turn ends. But if you're at war, then the turns have to be sequential. That
Oh,
way,
yeah.
So
Right.
it introduces this absolutely miserable time stop every single turn. And if you're not involved in the war, it's even worse, because your turn is done in like 3 seconds, and then two players who, God, you couldn't give a shit about what they're fighting about, they're now consuming 99% of the game time, and
Yeah.
they're not even having fun because they're just building units for like 20 turns and sending them at each other to die. It can get real bad. So
Yeah.
I don't think, I'm not sure. If you turn off domination victory, I think you can still go to war. Yeah, you
Oh,
must be
hell
able
yeah.
to, yeah.
Because war's still like an integral part of it, where like if they have resources you
Right,
want
right.
and you can't trade for them, then you're going to war.
I think then you would
So-
have to, if you really wanted a viable game of multiplayer Civ, you'd need to turn domination off if you want it to end in a reasonable time frame.
I guess they changed nomination with one of their DLCs, where initially it was you just had to be the last surviving capital city, but now it's like you actually have to take over everyone else's capital cities,
Which
so it makes
sucks.
it way, way, way harder. And so I think that kind of disincentivizes it a little bit, like for people to actually go for that victory state. But
I mean, it's
yeah,
always the most
that's
miserable to go for.
it's awesome. The idea of that multiplayer is awesome and it's fun while it lasts, but it's nobody actually plays that game for the multiplayer. Like I've never known anyone who like actually plays multiplayer Civ on a regular basis or anything. Like they've tried it and then they go to the single player. It really is a single player game, even though it sounds perfect for multiplayer and it's a board game, of course. But it's so hard to keep the games going, and like you said, the tedium of it is too much.
It is, but still,
Um,
I don't play Civ except for the multiplayer. Like, I'll
I'm-
fire it
I'm
up once
enjoying
in a
my
blue
single-player
moon and do the
stuff.
multiplayer now.
I'm enjoying it. So I
I'll
don't
probably
know.
get
It's-
6, but not when it comes
The
out.
thing about it is like you can put on a podcast or a video or something.
That
and
is
it's
true.
the perfect game for that. So
You can kind of like have something on in the background and just
yeah,
chill out. Yeah, it does have that going for it. Very relaxing game,
yeah.
especially
another
with
game,
the music. The music in that game.
Oh, I turn the music off.
I know, but like I do too, really. But if I forget to, it fits well.
Yeah.
It's very subdued.
Well, like Civ 6 has some really good, not only music, but they've gotten like professional actors and like they have Sean Bean doing the
Why?
narration because it's cool. It's Sean Bean,
Okay,
of course.
all right. But money well
Game
spent.
of Thrones, man. They probably have more money than they need to make another Civ game. You know,
Okay, all right.
what else
fair
are they
enough.
going to spend it on?
And plus, they
Um,
get all that money from those DLCs and expansions.
Yeah. I
Alright.
mean, and that's a very popular. Civ is like, I think, a more mainstream game than people realize too. Like, I think a lot of people's only experience with PC gaming is Civ in a lot of cases. Next to like World of Warcraft and
That
stuff.
was-
But
That was actually one of my first experiences with PC gaming. My
There you
older
go.
cousin, he had. I'm. This might not be a real game because I've tried googling this before and it didn't quite work out. But I think it was like a spin-off of Civ. Anyway, the way I remember it called is Civilization 2: Call to Power. But just know I have not been able to find a game by that title. I found 2 games, Civilization 2 and Call to Power. Anyway, he had played the shit out of that game. I was maybe 4 years younger than him, so he was the cool cousin guy. And he had mastered that game and had just started messing around with like the cheat codes. And that was the first time I'd ever seen a game like that, like the city civilization management thing. And so I'm just
Yeah.
seeing him spawn in like a bunch of nukes and change everyone's like ideology to democracy or totalitarianism just by clicking stuff in a menu. And that was so cool. It was like, oh my god, what are you doing? This is not, you're not controlling a person, you're making decisions about the destiny of nations. It's whoa.
yeah, it's pretty mind blowing. I have you ever played War Game?
War game, no.
It's not like Civ. It's a real time strategy game. But I was thinking about it recently while playing Civ. because I was thinking about like how my mind would have been blown as a kid. I loved Command and Conquer as a kid, and that's 2D sprites, like Red Alert sprites on a 2D background, very simplistic, but it was like the scale of it was awesome to me, and I loved like how you're actually controlling a whole army. And War Games is a real time strategy game, but it it's all about like I don't know. I guess it's all about micromanagement in a way. It's very realistic, and so like the units have individual weapons that they use and ammo and stuff like that. Like you have logistics trucks and just all sorts. Like it's actually trying to simulate a battlefield in some ways, and it's a little too much for me to take in, but it's kind of fun on a shallow level. But also its multiplayer is actually viable. But I was thinking how mind blowing it would be like to have that level of depth as a kid and like see the graphics and everything in full 3D. It's crazy, man. We live in the future.
We do.
That's it. Speaking of the future and Battlefield, I've played more Battlefield 4. I have nothing to say about it. That game's fine. Whatever. Now one of the movies that I've seen. Sicario.
Sicario.
Have you ever seen Sicario?
No, I've only heard the name. Don't know anything.
Yeah,
about it.
I've heard some people talking about it and stuff. People seem to like it. I didn't know much about it. Even going in, I didn't really know anything about it.
What is it? What's the premise?
It is a she's not FBI, maybe DEA. I don't know. What some field agent is working in like South Texas or something, fighting the cartel. Like busting their safe houses and that kind of thing. And she gets recruited by people who claim to be the Department of Defense to go on a special mission. And they take her into Mexico, and they're transporting this guy out of prison in Mexico back across the border. And while they're coming back across the border, the cartel tries to intercept them and steal the guy back or execute him or something like that. And they get into like this firefight on the Mexican border, and it's like an international incident, and she's kind of freaking out because like they didn't tell her that any of this stuff would happen. Anyway, turns out she's been swept into this crazy international conspiracy plot with like the CIA trying to like influence cartels and stuff like that. Kind of your standard story, really, but it's so well shot, so well directed. It's really, really the suspense. The whole movie is super, super suspenseful. Like in Breaking Bad when it shows just like shots of the desert.
Oh yeah.
And just like you're overcome with this dread and like existentialism. It's that put in the movie, and it sees these action scenes where like 9% of it that has action in it is just the build up to the action, and it's awesome. It's fantastic. I cannot recommend that movie more. I at first I was a little bit turned off from it because it has the main character, the girl, is not your typical protagonist in that she's not really privy to anything that's going on. She's kind of weak and gets pushed around the whole time, and just doesn't really like show any. She makes a lot of naive mistakes where you're like, come on, what are you doing? And at first, like that kind of like rattled me, and I was kind of like, it was frustrating to watch the movie and like have it centered around this character who's totally unrelatable and unlikable, really. But then like I started thinking about it, and the next day I was thinking more about it, and I was thinking like that's actually really clever what they did. They made it feel like she was helpless against this larger battle that nobody could change. No individual could influence to any real degree. It's just like changing power from one hand to the next, and that's part of that, dreadful and suspenseful atmosphere of it. It's good. I'm gonna watch it again, and I highly, highly recommend it. I also, on the same night, actually, this was a heavy night for me. Apocalypse Now. I finally got around to watching Apocalypse Now.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've been meaning to for months. Like
Have you
that
read
is
Heart
on
of
my
Darkness?
short list. No, I had not.
You might want to read Heart of Darkness first, just to like get the
I really
get
am
the
pumped
feel
about
of
this
like
movie.
what it's trying to say to you. Like it's boy, this movie it's an epic. You know, it's like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
That's what
It's
I've
in
heard
that league of
that
like
it
really
is.
long and slow and brooding. Um, it was good. I liked it a lot. It was really, really good.
And
And
oh man,
it's just God. That's a hell of a movie, man. I
that's
don't
one
even know
that
what
I
to
would
say about
want.
it.
Like movies like that, I prefer to watch for the first time, like not on my computer. I really like to set that up on a big
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, and you
And
want to
it's
be
just
comfortable
fun.
because you're in it
Exactly,
for the long haul. I
exactly.
mean, it's how long is it? 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I think is which I've seen longer. But if you watch like the uncut version, I think it's 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Christ.
But I've heard you want to watch the cut version. Um, it's good. I don't know. I can't say much about it to someone who hasn't seen it because it's kind of like you're trying to explain this really weird thing that can't even like compare it to stuff. Like I would compare it to 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's 2001: A Space Odyssey in Vietnam. um, it's good. Uh, and other than that, I don't think I really have anything about it. We did play Halo 5 Forge
We did.
after the last stream.
Yes, we did. And
That's pretty cool.
I've been playing some more of that also without you, and it's I'm glad that game's on PC, and I'm glad I didn't have to pay anything for it because it is kind of janky, especially in the menus that just will sometimes not work for no reason. But it's just so cool that I wouldn't have expected this to be in the cards anytime soon. Really, it kind of came out of nowhere, and it's fun.
It is fun. What I'm frustrated with about I'm talking not about Forge. I'm talking about Microsoft.
Okay.
The whole Windows stuff, the ports from Xbox. What do they call it? Play Anywhere.
Yeah.
Now I've experienced 2 different games on that platform, and I'm just not impressed. I'm glad that they're going for it, but it seems like they're really falling short.
What we talked about, I think, someone pointed it out to either me or both of us. I think we talked about it briefly, but why it's that way? Did we talk about this already? I don't want to retread
maybe
it if we did.
briefly. I don't know.
Whatever. I'll say it anyway. The goal was to make it so that you can make something on the Xbox One and not change it at all. You don't have to do anything else to it, and just it works on PC. That's the framework they're trying to make. So I sort of can understand a little better than I did why it is the way it is. Like, it is not a PC port. It is the same Xbox code exactly.
Yeah, I guess that is a good explanation for it because I noticed when I was trying to stream Forza, I was trying to figure out where the hell the program was installed. Uh, and that sent me on an adventure into the
where was it?
System 32 fucking
It's in
folder.
there?
Yes.
What? Wait, but what if you don't install it to your C drive? Does it still put stuff in the
No,
system?
it makes you install it to your C drive. You don't get an option.
No, I got an option.
Which is another issue I have with
I
it.
got an option.
You didn't get an option
I did.
with Forge?
Yeah.
Didn't give me an option with Forza.
No, I heard people.
Maybe Forge isn't installed the same way.
No,
I don't
people
know.
said it was this. People encountered the same problem on our mobile. Like, they tried to do it and it wouldn't let them, and they had to do it in a certain way to let it. Like, it's so strange, but you definitely can pick where you install it. I installed
don't
mine
know.
on my 4 terabyte drive, so it's not on my C drive.
I was looking for. I think what I did was I followed the path to the game from the GeForce Experience panel, and I copied the link to that path and pasted it into Windows Explorer, and it sent me into like I had to get like admin privileges
Amazing.
and it like warned me and everything, and I was like,
Amazing.
holy shit, it's a video game, and so you can't add it to Steam, you can't do any of that. Like, you just have to launch it through Windows, and it won't. It's not only does it not show up on the fucking volume thing, it doesn't show up on OBS or I don't know.
You
It's
can't make
crazy.
it pick up on OBS at all. You
N-
need to do
I
like
couldn't.
monitor or window capture.
Yeah, I had to do
Nice.
window capture. It was not cool. But I had to install a third-party program through the Windows Play Store to get it to fucking work. I'm just to get the sound to work. I didn't get OBS to work. So kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. Halo 5 Forge is cool. I'm glad it's free because I don't think I'll play that much of it, but it's kind of fun to fuck around in. And if you have that Halo 5 multiplayer itch, like that'll definitely scratch it. Like it's Halo 5.
Yeah, and it's a lot more fun to play mechanically than I expected, because I'd seen lots of Call of Duty stuff. One, you can turn all that off, which is nice, but it doesn't all feel out of place. The sprinting is kind of bad, but
I don't know.
hovering in midair when you aim down the sights, that is at least better than just adding aim down the sights. Yeah, I don't know.
think it bothers me less because it's on PC. Playing
Yeah,
with a mouse
yeah.
and keyboard, it already doesn't feel like Halo.
That's
So
true.
those additions feel fine because it's like, okay, this is a game that's like Halo, and I'm playing it on the PC, and so those changes don't bother me as much. But boy, I don't know. And those aren't the only questionable decisions they've made. Like, not only do I hate sprinting name down sights, and they represent everything I don't want from a game that isn't Call of Duty. They did some really bizarre stuff like weapon spawns. Maybe this was Halo 4 and they fixed it in Halo 5, but I don't think so. I think it's still this way. Weapon spawns, an arena-based shooter where you spawn with a set loadout of weapons and you have to pick up the good shit. But the good shit spawns randomly. Now,
In
I'm sure
Forge,
in the
it's
Forge
manually
maps,
set.
well,
Yeah.
sure, in the Forge maps you can set it, but I'm talking about just base Halo 5 multiplayer. That's a decision that they made to make it random, which makes maps pointless. Like the whole, like a huge strategy in arena shooters is weapon pickups.
Oh, definitely. Like in
And
Valhalla,
so-
Halo 3, there's a Spartan laser
Yeah.
at the center of the map. Who's gonna launch
that,
over
like-
to it and grab it?
It changes so much about it, and like where the sniper perches are, and stuff like that. And so that's an insane decision. And then they have like burn cards for Halo 5 multiplayer, where like you have to burn a card to get a vehicle, and then you can use a microtransaction to get more of them, and
Awesome.
just a bunch of bullshit like that. They kind of made it like a MOBA mode almost without the creeps. It's just, it's weird, and it's not Halo. And I don't know. I think by this point, like people kind of realize that. Like I don't know anyone who's still into Halo.
Yeah. Nobody I know
buying
plays
Halo.
it regularly.
Exactly. Like it died at Halo 3. Maybe Halo Reach some people got into, I don't know, but 3 to me was like the last
Oh yeah.
good Halo game. I mean, the Reach was fine, but like that's the one that 3 is the one that people play.
It was the end. That was the
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's kind of sad. I've heard good things about the newest Gears of War, at least, which is kind of surprising. Apparently, that's a good game.
I've heard
I'm
nothing
not going to
about
play it probably, but apparently it's good. The campaign's decent, and the multiplayer's what people want from a Gears multiplayer game, I guess. I don't know how I'd be interested in seeing how it runs on PC though. I haven't heard anything about that, but like with I mean, we didn't have a ton of issues with Forge, but there's some quirkiness to it that's weird, and then Forza has some pretty serious issues. So I imagine Gears of War probably does better because it's on an engine that's, as far as I know, designed for PC. I mean, it's Unreal, you know. So,
that is true.
I
would
would
help.
assume that would help. But yeah, it's kind of a mess. I hope Microsoft goes all the way with that stuff. And what they really need to do is turn Xbox into a PC, not turn the PC into an Xbox. You know,
Yeah,
kind of going
yeah.
the wrong direction
That would-
right now, which is
That's the
understandable.
better
but,
direction, but I get why
Yeah.
they're coming the other side.
well, sure. I mean, they have to
Right.
to start out. But I think, you know, their next iteration of the Xbox probably needs to be closer to a PC if they want to really do this shit.
I think they will.
I don't know.
I think they are consciously trying to
I mean, the consoles are
make them
already moving in that
converge,
direction
not just
anyway.
move PC toward the console. So, yeah.
Yeah, but like the PS4 is also closer to the PC apparently, so I assume that
Yeah.
they're already moving that way. And with the more and more apps that they want to add on that shit, like to make it do all sorts of stuff, you need to make it closer to a PC anyway, so that your developers can work on it. But yeah, good luck to them.
We salute you. Okay. Well, I have really not played video games. Haven't had the time. But I started, more importantly, I know that we all care about the latest haps in the Marvel universe. So
Oh, God.
prepare for your Marvel update, ladies and gentlemen. Get your comic book fix, fellow comic nerds. I watched Luke Cage. It's the new Netflix Marvel show. Like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, same universe and everything. I just don't. Not really much to say. It was
That's how I
good.
feel about Marvel stuff too.
It was good. I will say this. Okay, so Daredevil and Jessica Jones, they're shows that I'd be kind of embarrassed to watch with somebody else just because of how seriously they take themselves. They're that sort of show where the characters, it's not super well written, but there'll still be like scene after scene of characters like sitting in bars, like, and
But Marvel's
he
good at-
never
I don't
loved
know-
me, and it works.
I don't know about
it
Jessica
works.
Jones, but I've seen Daredevil, and Marvel's usually pretty good at like inserting comic relief,
Yeah.
which avoids the awkwardness of super serious, brooding comic book shit.
They do, but the shows are much darker than the movies,
Yeah.
and so they indulge a little more in the brooding and the melodrama. Luke
Daredevil
Cage,
wasn't too bad about that.
uh,
Of all the issues I had with Daredevil, that's not one of them. I didn't
that's
feel
one of my
like
biggest issues with it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, Luke Cage does less of that than either of those two shows. It's definitely more straightforward and fun, and a lot of that comes from the premise. He's a superpowered black guy from the hood, and he
Oh, this is
doesn't.
the Invincible guy.
Yeah.
Bulletproof.
Yeah, so he doesn't hide in the shadows and save the city under the cover of darkness. He just like walks around and saves people like a superhero. Like if somebody's getting robbed, he'll just walk in and beat up the criminals and turn their guns into Play-Doh and smush them up and say,
As a superhero.
happy to help,
should.
ma'am. Yeah, exactly. He's a classic superhero. And the Harlem setting, there's like the drama of the streets and the hood and the corrupt councilwoman and the cops. Like that all kind of worked too. But overall, there's just not all that much to it. And it gets pretty dumb at times, many times. Yeah, it's a Marvel show.
Yeah, my sister was trying to convince me to watch Jessica Jones recently, and I told her like I tried Daredevil and it didn't work for me, and the Marvel movies don't usually work for me. I don't know what Jessica Jones has to offer that's going to impress me when Marvel has so much going against it statistically.
Yeah.
It's like they have to make something real different for me to bother with it because so far it's just not my thing.
One thing I think they were successful with is making each of these three shows feel a lot different from each other. Even though they're all directly related, they have very different styles to them. Like Daredevil is probably more like your classic crime superhero style of a story. Jessica Jones is more like a crime or a mystery kind of show. And Luke Cage is like I don't know, it's like a funky little crime drama, but it's lots of 70s music and lots of black culture.
Oh, it's
and,
70s stuff? I mean, you said Harlem, but I assumed it was like a modern day.
Yeah, there is that
thing.
stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a cool show, and probably the worst action or choreography of any of these three shows. A lot of that's because he's super powerful and can throw people super far,
Well,
and
compared
it's
to
a
Daredevil,
TV budget.
too, like,
Right, Daredevil's fight
that's a pretty
choreography is
high
on
bar.
point,
Yeah.
amazing, and this is certainly not. But it makes up for it in other ways, like just being more just fun moment to moment to watch. One little thing I noticed, it kind of feels like there was probably a lot of white people writing for the show and trying to write hood dialogue. I know the creator of the show and the lead writer is a black guy, but there's just pretty obvious moments where it's like they wouldn't say that. Like sometimes a character will walk in and just be like, "Hey, what's poppin'?" Come
Yeah.
on, like,
Well, it's probably also the kind of thing that's like written but in large part by a committee, you
oh
know?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Especially
it's like,
because the
here,
plot is almost
what's gonna be,
secondary to the tie-in to the
yeah,
next show.
and they're like, what's gonna be the least offensive thing to your casual Netflix observer, and like, just like really stale dialogue is gonna come with that kind of shit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that sounds
another.
surprising.
Speaking of offensive, another funny thing about the show is its inconsistent censorship. Uh, so like characters will say the N word and fuck all the time, but then there's a action scene set to "Raise the Ruckus" by Wu-Tang, and for some reason they use like the radio edited clean version of that song, and I have no idea why, but it's so
Hmm.
distracting. Like I couldn't focus on what was happening. I was just
I wonder
listening.
if there's like a licensing thing.
I don't think so, because they
Like
got
if the radio version has a different. I don't
no,
know.
because they got Method Man on the show, and he's like plays a character. He plays himself on the show,
Okay.
and he like has a lot of scenes. And clearly, Wu-Tang was, it's officially licensed and all that. It's
Yeah.
but when you're watching him beat people up, and it's supposed to be cool and exciting, and you're hearing "Raise the Mothing Ruckus," or I forget exactly how they edited, but it was so obvious that it just stuck out like a sore thumb.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, it's just it's a Marvel.
There was something I watched recently.
You get it?
Oh
Marvel.
shit! It was so
Mhm.
recent, and I'm forgetting what it was. But they had clearly replaced the music with some kind of stock thing, and God, I forgot what it was. Fuck, it's gonna bother me now because it was just like really jarring. Where it's like, oh, I know what music that's supposed to be here, and it's not that music, and it's really noticeable. Um, Maybe I'll think about
I don't know
it.
what you're talking about.
I know that like shows that get ported over to America are ripe with that shit. Like there's just all sorts of songs that the BBC has licenses to that whatever BBC America or Netflix or whatever doesn't, and so they have to replace a huge amount of the music. Top Gear is really bad about that, but it wasn't that. Oh, God, I forgot what it was. Anyway, go on. What else have you done? What's wrong with my webcam?
I made a video. I don't know. It stops working. But yeah, just keep doing whatever you're doing. It makes it work for a couple more seconds each time.
Great.
I made a video. We already talked about that, but I did make one, and it feels really good. I haven't made a video in a while.
Would you call it masturbatory?
I would. It really left me like with that burning sensation, like underneath the reptile part of your brain there. It's like, oh, that
I thought you meant like a kind
know-
of burning
you know how it
sensation.
is.
I was gonna say go to a doctor.
not a venereal situation. It's more of a yeah. So making that video was fun. It didn't take me that long. I think part of the issue was I started a real job, and the video I was already procrastinating on is like several hours long,
Mm.
and just like trying to break through that, I don't think it would have happened. Like that would have been indefinite. So what I'd like to do is just keep making small videos and continue to plug away at the larger one. I think it's easier if you stay active making things. Because it felt really good just to get back in the Premiere timeline and drag stuff around. I mean, that is itself is fun. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of that video's content,
Okay. All right.
Overwatch came out with its Halloween thing today.
Yes, it did. Haven't played it yet.
I've thought about playing Overwatch again.
I
It's been weeks.
am going to play Overwatch again. I wanted to play it like a couple hours ago, but I realized I didn't have it installed anymore. So, yeah, but
Thinking about it.
I do
don't know
wanna
if it's
play
still
it.
installed, but I'm thinking about it.
I don't
I
know.
swore it off.
I just always kind of even though I made the video, I still don't know if this point was entirely clear in it. Like whenever I play a game like that, Overwatch is just one example. CS:GO, back when I played that, it felt really good, and it's fun to play a match with your friends or play all night or whatever. But then afterwards, it's not like Civ 5 when you get some really good Civ 5 multiplayer rolling. and then you kind of remember stuff, and it kind of blends together in a way that I don't
There's
like.
just a big chunk of your day missing.
Yeah, it feels like, what did I do this for? Or
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not rewarding. I'm not asking for a multiplayer game to like teach me a lesson about life or something, but
But I think they
you
can.
know, they can, yeah,
CS:GO.
but they can also just be like interesting to play. Interesting things can happen that you'll remember, and you won't see them again. I don't know.
CS:GO kept my interest and keeps my interest because you do feel like you're learning things as you play, or just getting better. You're improving a skill. It might not be a useful skill, but it's
Right. It's
but
still
that feeling of
it's a
actually
very
improving
specific
is,
skill, but yeah.
yeah. That feeling of improving is satisfying, and it's something that I think Overwatch doesn't completely lack, especially if you're playing with people you know. But that individual skill gets less and less important as
Definitely.
you play more and more of it, and you realize how much of that game is about counter picking and all that kind of shit. And so that satisfaction is lessened in Overwatch. I think I'm sure playing with a team is a lot more fun, obviously. But I don't know.
I think
Like, go ahead.
it's hard to figure out if a game really has mechanical depth or not, because it's such a vague thing to talk about. But I think a rule of thumb that might be useful is there anything in the game that you can practice? Or, like CS:GO, you can get an AK-47, you can shoot a wall, and you can try to train your mouse movement to minimize the spread of the gun.
Yeah.
You can practice that and get perfect at it. Melee, any fighting game really, but that's just the one I know. You can grind out technical skill and movements and things like that. Overwatch, what are you really gonna practice? You can't, other than like your aim with Widowmaker or something. I don't know what you can really.
And even then, it's just it's so one note.
Right.
You aim at the head and shoot. I mean, a lot of people would say that about CS:GO, but they'd be wrong. But yeah, the when I would lose an Overwatch match, it was always like, well, we didn't have the right characters.
Yeah.
And
I never get.
We trickled in instead of rushing in all at the same time or whatever. But like, it's these vague concepts that you have to work at it on a team level, which isn't very. You just don't get that satisfaction,
especially if you're
when
not
you lose.
playing with the stack of 6 too.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed about Overwatch is that I don't get as frustrated when I lose competitive games as I did in CS:GO.
I started getting frustrated.
I can be a curmudgeon.
I actually got more frustrated with Overwatch than I do in
Really?
CS:GO. When I lose, it's like I usually feel like I deserved the loss.
No,
and that
that's
I could
why.
have done better.
That's why it frustrates me more. And I know that it's like, it shouldn't, it's fair. That's sort of what I'm saying, that when I lost in
Yeah,
CS:GO,
I know what you-
it
yeah,
felt
I
like
know
it
what you mean.
was because we failed and not
Yeah.
just because of something vague. Like, it's easier to dismiss your losses in Overwatch, I think, because so much is just up for grabs, like the chance counter pick situation
it's
here.
essentially random
Yeah.
because there's so much chaos, and we've talked about that before, like the 6v6 nature of it and the amount of characters and the counter picks.
And plus
It's
a
so
cascade of
complex, it's
ults.
impossible to yeah.
Really, if everybody on both teams has their alts, then it almost is a complete coin flip of how that 6v6 12 alt team fight is going to go. I mean, I don't think there's any way to predict it.
It's crazy. And yeah, so I know what you mean by that being less frustrating, but for me, at first that was the case, but as I played more of it, that I switched to just frustration where it was like, well, fuck, I couldn't do anything that game because my teammates were being stupid.
Definitely.
And it completely held me back, and now it feels like I wasted that entire game. In CS:GO, you can have the worst teammates in the world, but you're playing your own game. And if you feel like you played well, even if you lost, it's like, well, at least I played well.
You also play it more like, it's a little more like basketball, where you're playing positions. Everybody's kind of got the same tools. I mean, you can have an AWP or a rifle or something like that, but still, it's more about the like positional role you're trying to fill in any round. It's not like this is the slot or class that you're assuming the
Yeah.
role of. I don't know. It seems like it
And it's
definitely
not, and
puts
like,
more.
in Overwatch, you have to rely on your support to
Right.
be decent, or you're fucked. Or if you are a support, then you have to rely on your teammates to be decent, or you're fucked. So it's like you're always relying on your teammates. There's situations like that in CS:GO, but again, like it's so much more down to personal skill that it mitigates the frustration of it. I don't know. I both of those games have their merits. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I wouldn't say that. I like Overwatch a lot, and I think
I think
if you get a team together, then that could be a really, really cool game. But I'm not going through the amount of effort to get 6 people together at once to play that game. It's not worth it. I don't
think
like the game enough.
what I need to try, and I probably won't do it more than once, but I need to legitimately sit down and watch. Maybe not now. The game might not be ready for it yet or mature enough on the meta level. But at some point, I need to really sit down and watch a professional Overwatch competitive game, and I want to
I've watched
see.
one.
I want to see how a highly practiced team approaches the game, and if you can actually identify clear strategies that don't seem just out of this world dumb, that they work that way. Like it's a good stress test of a game's
Yeah.
like underlying mechanics. If when it's pushed to the extreme, is it still satisfying to watch and play? So I would like to see that. What did you see when you watched it?
Well,
What's your take there?
I'm not well versed in the game enough to. I wasn't well versed enough to really follow like the strategies. Like, what are they actually doing, and why did they choose the characters
That's
they
what I
choose,
care
and that kind
about.
of thing. Yeah, and I mean that stuff gets really complicated, and you have to have a lot of experience with the game to really know which. I mean, I know what the characters do and how they fit into a team, but we're talking about like they're choosing their characters based on what the other team chose, and vice versa, and that stuff gets really complicated. But I mean, the main thing, the big difference that you notice straight away, like the very obvious, like, oh shit, this is night and day, is that
Your sound went out. Now you left the mumble. I'm gonna try bring it back in and say something.
I don't know why that
No, you're
happened.
good.
Because I didn't disconnect from the internet. But anyway, what I was saying, yeah, the night and day difference that you notice first of all, and that makes the biggest difference, and that I wish teams would do solo queuing and that kind of thing, but there's no chance of it. Is when a team loses, 2 or 3 people, they fall back and they wait for them to respawn, group back up, and move back in, and that's the flow of the game. And that's a flow of the game that I'm completely unfamiliar with because I've never experienced it in online play. But like, yeah, that's the flow of the game is completely different. Like it totally changes the entire game, and it looks a lot better that way because then you always have 6v6 matches where it's not a rollover, and it makes ults way more impactful because usually everyone's on the field together, so that makes the game look a lot more enjoyable than it is when you're playing at a lower level and it's just like people trying in and dying. But I don't know, it's still the kind of game where it's just like watching a specific person play, you're not like, holy shit, they're so good. It's
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
there they go. I don't know.
You could look at things like Pharah. You're watching a professional Pharah getting lots of direct hits, or a Widowmaker getting lots of headshots. But
Yeah, like half or more of the characters do require precision and accuracy and that kind of thing, but like,
right, but the ones who
that's
don't,
not.
there still is probably, and there must be, some high level way to play it. But it's very hard to spot like if you were to watch a professional Reinhardt, I don't know if I would be able to spot in the first few matches exactly what they're doing and why
No
it's
way.
working. There has
No
to be
way.
some pretty
Reinhardt's all
complicated
about
decision-making
timing
there.
and
Yeah.
placement, but like that's not stuff that you can know. Like the worst player in the world could have the right timing and placement just by luck, because like it's just such a very simple
True.
thing. They're not going to have it consistently, but like you said, like at a glance, there's no way you'd be able to tell a pro Reinhardt player from basically a beginner.
Yeah.
It just Reinhardt's a lot of fun. Reinhardt was actually one of my favorite things to play because the that nature of it, the timing and the placement, and like a game of it where like you're kind of trying to figure out what the other Reinhardt's doing and that kind of thing is really interesting to me, and kind of boils down Overwatch to a very simple level that I enjoy. But yeah, it doesn't make a very interesting match to play or anything or to watch. I don't think Overwatch has a competitive future.
Oh, I
I
don't
think it's
either.
always going to be a casual game. I think people will try to push it as a competitive thing. I mean, there's teams and stuff right now that are playing at tournaments, but no, it'll never catch on. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see, even though it won't catch on
Well, I
at
know what
that
you mean, 'cause
level,
I would
right?
love
Yeah,
to. I was interested for the same reasons. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's about all I gotta say on that. I do have two things coming up that I'm very excited about. One, you'll have heard some of his music in that video, as well as a couple Push to Shout intros. DJ Shadow, cool guy. He's gonna be
Okay.
playing near me. I'm gonna cool. And even more exciting than that, this I've made an entire day out of. I put in to take off of work
Ooh.
this Friday, months ago, just 1 month ago, but let's lie here, to see Shin Godzilla, the new Godzilla movie directed by Hideaki Anno.
You took off work
I
to
did.
see it?
I did.
Holy shit.
Well, part of it's because I'm seeing the DJ the night before, and last time I went to a concert at this place on a Thursday night, I wound up getting home at like 1 a.m. and I had to wake up for work
Yeah.
at 6, and it just sucked ass. So I just decided, you know what, I'm taking that Friday afterwards off, and now that I had that time, it's like, you know what, Shin Godzilla's playing for 1 week only, I'm gonna go see it. And that is a public service announcement too, by the way. Shin Godzilla only playing in the States, October 11th through the 18th. You gotta see it this week. It's the only time to see it. Go see Shin Godzilla.
Is it going to be really good?
I have heard nothing but good things about it.
I haven't
Rocco,
heard anything about it.
Rocco and Garrett of Mega 64, they got a screener of it from Funimation, so they got to see it early, and their treatment of it on the podcast was pretty classy. They didn't spoil anything really, but they absolutely loved it. They say it's almost like a live action Evangelion. Like you can clearly see the same eye is behind what you're seeing. And Derek made a good point on this week's podcast. He saw it at a different time than they did. Where a regular director who mainly directs in live action, he kind of gets actors together, you have a script, and then he captures that interaction, like a little more like a play. But animators who work in drawing and creating the scene that way, they don't like capture the scene, they make it, and it's very specific, and there's not a lot of camera movement in this movie, so I've heard. It has a very distinct style, and not just distinct as in you can tell it's Anno, but distinct in that it doesn't look like most other movies, but is just a blast to see with your eyes. So I'm really excited. I am
I might
very,
have to look
very
up and
pumped to see this. It's playing. This is a kind of interesting limited release. It's playing almost everywhere, but only at 7 p.m. once per day.
Wow.
So
Okay.
you can probably find it near you, but it's got to be at 7 p.m.
Yeah. I mean, if Hateful Eight was near me, it's at least at that theater. Like, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some theater around me. Yeah. All right. Cool. I'll have to look into that because
I am
I've got
su-
free time this weekend.
You
I think.
better look into it this week, because that's the only time, and who knows when it's coming out on Blu-ray. And really, anything, I would kill to be able to see one of the Eva movies, whether it was End of Evangelion or 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, in the theater, because that experience must have been cool. And so to do that this time, I am more excited than I should be. Maybe I'll be disappointed, but I'm not even trying to contain my
Oh God. Yeah. All right.
yeah. So good note to end on. Unless you have more, which you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
couple
Here's your
hacks.
content.
Well, no, yeah. I guess this
Your
relates
hap
to
is the
my
content.
Yeah. My hap was
I tried to
my
kill this
my
prematurely.
my content was based on a hap. Squadron 42 was delayed. It was announced at CitizenCon,
Shocking
which
the
is apparently
world.
a thing. Yeah, I'm sure there were a few people in the world who thought it was coming out this year. It does say it's coming this year, even on the website to this day, as far as I'm aware. At least
'Cause,
when I wrote that article, it did.
if you have tens of millions of dollars lying around, really, you're just too busy to update your website.
Yeah, except for the parts that you know charge people money. Those parts get updated
Oh, yeah.
frequently, apparently. I've been reading the Star Citizen forums, as I do quite often, to see people's opinions and the state of Star Citizen, and it never
Must be like
changes.
going to the zoo.
It is. It's a lot like going to the zoo. Like in that, like you're kind of excited to go in there, and you get there and you go, "This is neat," and it's the same as last time. Everything's doing the same thing. The lion's lying over there, and the monkeys are. Everyone, it's like a cycle, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's not the same people. I'm sure it's like because slowly a new group of people who go like, "Wait a minute, I big thing that I don't think are gonna come out," and I'm kind of frustrated here because I've spent all this money and I just want the game to come out now, and it's being delayed, and I don't see any end in sight. And then people trying to reassure them by saying, like, "Well, look, the tech demo looks
Hang
good."
in there. Just hang
buddy.
in there.
It's
Chris Roberts would never let us down.
yeah,
Is that
it's
his
a
name,
little
Chris Roberts?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's endearing. Like it's not like, oh, cute. They have hope. So they showed some gameplay of Star Citizen, not Squadron 42. They haven't showed any of Squadron 42. They say they want a complete mission before they show it off. But they showed some Star Citizen. They showed a guy in a spaceship flying down, landing on a planet, driving around in his planet buggy, getting shot at, shooting some dudes, suffering a sandstorm, and then being attacked by a giant space worm. Which was all very impressive looking. It's a really the tech that they have built is really cool. The scale
Assuming
is
it will
impressive.
work that way and look that way in gameplay.
Assuming, yes. I mean, it's not concept footage. They were playing it, and you can tell because there's some really embarrassing issues that they had, like the sandworm in the middle of this epic moment where it's about to pounce on the player shrinks and like it just disappears and the presenter's kind of like, oh, that I've never seen that happen before. That's never happened before. And it was like live demo, folks. But yeah, that game, I think it'll come out. I think it'll be a thing. I don't know if it'll work.
Eventually. You can say that about
Yeah.
like someday we will tap out the world's oil supply. Someday the sun will expand past Mars and consume our
Well, it's always
world.
possible that they've horribly mismanaged their money, and even with all the donations, they spend it all and go bankrupt, and the game never actually does come out. That's
That
always
would be
possible.
absolute riot. I would
Yeah.
kill to be able to be there day one on the forums. If they actually announced that, there would be still some people defending it.
Yes, definitely. Quite a few, probably. Yeah, I don't know.
What a
I
crowd.
would love it if that
What
game.
a crowd.
We've said it over and over. I would love it if that game came out and delivered on its promises.
Yeah.
But boy, I feel really bad for the people who. I mean, I remember being really excited for the concept of Squadron 42 when the Kickstarter was first a thing, and thinking like, God, I can't wait for that. That'd be really cool. It's a space game that I've been waiting for years, where like you can fly around in this ship with like your buddies, and it's like a fighter, and like you can all get in fighters and scramble, and it sounded really cool, and actually achievable. And then it just started making millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. And suddenly it was this entirely different thing. And you're like, well, we're still coming out with the other thing we promised to begin with, but we have to finish this much larger thing first, basically. I mean, Squadron 42 is apparently going to come out before Star Citizen, but it's relying on all of Star Citizen's technology. So until they get near the end with Star Citizen, they can't come out with Squadron 42.
Star Citizen will go down in the books as this generation's Icarus. God, like,
I don't know. No Man's Sky has already gone down in the books.
well, that's for a different reason. I don't think.
I guess it's not as much of an Icarus tale as much of a.
What do you
I
call
tried
that?
really quickly to think of a scam artist or something in the Legends, but I couldn't think of one. I'm sure he's there.
Uh, I don't know. I get the sense that that No Man's Sky, Sean Murray was trying. He tried. Didn't really work out the way he wanted it to, and
He
he
was going to make a
overpromised.
neat little game that was going to cost $20, and
Yeah.
then it turned into a monster, and he acted like it was something it wasn't because he wanted it to be something it wasn't, and everyone else wanted it to be, and he didn't know how to break it to everyone.
Star
I think that's
Citizen-
genuinely what happened.
Right, yeah. I like really they never showed multiplayer gameplay. There was really nothing in the game that they showed and wasn't in it or anything like that or that
Kinda. I mean, there's some
like-
specific things, but you start nitpicking.
exactly.
But like, yeah, there were features and stuff where he specifically said they existed and
That's
they
true, that's
didn't. But like, the way he talked about the game was it's all Peter Molyneux talk, where it's like, oh yeah, it's just amazing, and you know, you look up at the sky and you're seeing the atmosphere, and it changes depending on what elements are in the atmosphere, and it's like, well, none of that's actually true.
Yeah.
But he's explaining his vision of the world, not what it actually is.
Yes, yeah.
I don't
that
know.
is true.
It's not. I'm not saying it's. I'm not.
It's
making
a
excuses for him.
good-natured
I'm not trying
kind
to
of-
justify the fact that he
Yeah.
lied, which he did lie. I'm just saying I don't think he did it out of malice. I
Right.
don't think that he was
couldn't
like.
help himself.
I don't think he was saying like, I'm gonna get all these sales. But boy, he fucked up.
Yeah,
Anyway, we've
so
talked
that
about
that
this.
seems kind of good natured. Star Citizen, on the other hand, does feel like the snake oil salesman on the corner who's got
Yeah.
like, behind this curtain, I have the most amazing thing you've ever seen. Please put your money in the pot, and I can unveil the curtain and show you.
I mean,
and meanwhile,
think
there's
it's
nothing behind the
two-sided.
curtain yet, and you gotta make it first. I don't know. There's nothing. There's nothing
I think
yet.
I think it's two-sided because you've got. I think Chris Roberts and his team are genuinely passionate about trying to create a game that's never been created before. This really
Really?
ambitious project, and I don't think that they have very many doubts about doing it. Like I think that maybe they're too ambitious, but I think they're actually trying to do what they say they're trying to do. But along the way, they are totally milking it for everything they can, and that is
Absolutely.
not. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts to create a better game. They're doing it because they can make as much money as they can off of, as I said in my article, rubes. The only people who could possibly
Patsies.
they have a $15,000 thing, which is like your best value is $15,000. You get like all the ships and shit. That's what they've determined is the best value for everything all in one. That's
$15,000.
all your content.
You don't mean
and people
1,500.
apparently-
You mean 15,000.
$15,000. Yes,
Okay.
5 digits.
That
They have a 5,000,
you know,
10,000,
okay.
and 15,000 collection.
I think stuff like Train Simulator. If you look at Train Simulator on Steam and you put together all the DLC
oh yeah,
and it
it's
racks up
absurd.
into the what, like thousands, I think. Right?
Yeah, something like 15,000 probably.
But it's
yeah.
still nowhere near that much.
I don't
I
know.
think it's like 4
It-
digits still.
It doesn't matter because it's a different.
Right.
model.
You can figure, okay, if you're a total obsessive about trains, you could maybe justify getting that deep into your pockets. to
Maybe, but
simulate
I think
them.
the real thing about Train Simulator is that nobody's buying all those trains. They're buying the ones that they like.
I guess so.
They're spending $30 on 3 trains rather than $3,000 on 100 trains.
Sure,
because
that's
they don't
true.
need it.
I guess my point there is that, like, if you're totally obsessed about something, you can definitely justify spending a lot more on it than you would normally think would make sense. However,
They would be getting those trains right then after their purchase.
wow,
Interrupting
amazing.
I'm just driving the point home.
I don't think I can't start putting together a mental self that could ever justify spending $15,000 on digital ships.
Stuff that doesn't
I mean,
exist. It's not just digital ships. It's digital ships that haven't been made yet.
yeah,
They don't even
it's-
have a rendering of them. They have an artist representation. Yeah.
That's
for a
it's
game that you can't
honestly
play yet, and you don't know when you'll be able to play it, if you'll be able to play it, or if it'll
honestly
be any good.
with no hyperbole, that is insane. That is
Yeah.
if you do that, that is insane behavior, and you have a problem.
And you could argue, oh well, 15,000. That's like the millionaire who's just throwing away his money and like doesn't really care that much about spending that kind of big money, which still is insane because you don't become a billionaire by throwing away your money. But there's other options besides the 15,000 that are still absurd, but less absurd. If you want to buy an individual ship, some of those ships cost upwards of $500.
Honestly, like $20 for a ship, that I would still
That would be
consider
absurd.
excessive.
I still think. Yeah.
But God, hundreds, thousands?
Yeah.
What the hell? Like
There's a lot of
it's
ships that are
unbelievable.
over.
I cannot believe it. I cannot believe that works. That people do it.
You can scroll through their store, and there's a good amount of ships that are well over $100, sometimes into the $500 range, and people are buying them. And I've read on those forums people who've said how much money they've spent on that game. And
I
these
bet
are
they
people
brag
who
about it
exist.
too. I bet they're proud of it. Fucking
I
Jesus
think-
Christ, these people.
I will say most of the time that I see people who spend that kind of money on the game, they're kind of saying, "Yeah, I'm in this too, buddy, and yeah, this is how much money I've spent, and I sure hope it's good."
That's
It's
pretty good. Like that's the
it's
essence
sad.
of Star Citizen. Yeah, it's like, well,
I hope it's good.
I sure do hope it's good there.
But I mean, that game exists in some form right now. It is playable in a broken state, pre-alpha, whatever you want to call it. But you can't act like it doesn't exist.
It exists, I think, in a similar state to the state Nier Automata exists in. Because when they did the demo for that at TGS, they actually showed you the menu, like the developer menu, where they picked which level they were going to show.
The console popped up in this demo.
Yeah, okay, all right. Then I guess they weren't trying to conceal it or anything. They want to be
No, I mean
unnecessarily
no,
harsh
it
on
was
them.
no. I mean they were very obviously playing the demo live, and there were
Okay,
a
alright.
good amount of issues with it. There was one part during the sandstorm.
I don't follow Star Citizen closely enough to talk
I'm
shit,
just
so
fascinated by it. I can't stop. There was one part during the sandstorm where the guy he was running for cover from the sandstorm, and he ran inside this derelict ship, and he kept looking in the direction the wind was blowing, and didn't. I mean, this lasted for like a minute and a half, and he was just looking in that one direction the whole time, and he kind of moved the camera around a little bit, but it's like, what are you hiding? What happens if you look into the sandstorm? Because it was just very obvious that he was doing it on purpose. And then like after it's done, he goes back, and the path that he came in on was all destroyed by the sandstorm. And I imagine that was some really terrible looking animation that they hadn't finished that they were trying to hide or something. But like stuff like that, where it's like, okay, it's a live demo, and I'm not saying that that's like an issue that they had these problems. In fact, it's proof that it is a running version of the game. But and they showed off like their level editing stuff. It was actually pretty impressive, the amount of stuff they were willing to just be like, hey, look how we make this part of the planet, where like they've got the procedural generation, but then on top of that they can put in custom stuff. And they were showing how easy it is to just like add rocks around a little lake and add a little docking port and then add some crabs and that kind of thing. And so yeah, they were just showing off their engine. It exists. That game
I hope
has a build.
I honestly do hope that Star Citizen comes out in 3 years from now in its final form, that it turned out to be a very disciplined product that didn't overreach and that executed on its core and that was solid all the way through and was unlike any experience you could get anywhere else, and all that delivered on all its promises, satisfied everybody. But I think if you think that's likely, then your eyes are closed.
Yeah, I think what's most likely is it's going to continue to be more and more ambitious as it goes along, and
Yep.
they're going to try to pack in so many features that the game suffers and becomes bloated and doesn't really work as an experience that's enjoyable in any way. And I think it'll also come out in an early access fashion, as these things tend to do, which will be super underwhelming because it'll be like features get added on and added on and added on. There won't be some big release where everyone's like, "Oh, this game's amazing." It'll be like, "This game's okay. Oh, it's getting better, but it's okay. It's getting better." And by the time
Well-
it reaches any kind of form that they want, like people are already sick of it.
Now, maybe I'm just a sucker and I judge people too much on how they present themselves. But Sean Murray, I never got the sense that he was lying to me out of malice or anything.
No,
Even though he did lie.
he lied.
He did lie. But I don't think he's like a bad person or a liar in general.
Yeah.
Chris Roberts, I don't know anything about, but I just don't trust him for a lot of reasons. Not just the way he is, but the promises he makes. You have to be inclined not to trust. But I don't get that earnestness from him that I got from Sean Murray. I don't
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't see why people really buy into it as much as they do. He doesn't feel like he has that magnetic charisma that can make people join cults, which is essentially what Star Citizen
he
has
just
become.
looks like a dork, but yeah,
Exactly,
It's very
it's
cult-like.
What was that town? Jamestown? What was that? Where everybody drank Kool-Aid?
Well, Jamestown's one of them. Yeah. Yeah. That I don't know. I don't distrust the guy necessarily, but I distrust his confidence.
I think he's a businessman. That's how he strikes me. Like
do think
I don't
he's a
know.
businessman.
the passion that you were describing, and again, I don't follow this as closely as you do, so maybe I'm just talking shit completely. But he seems like the type to find the strike, as they say in stock trading, like when the perfect moment to execute and sell or buy whatever position you're trying to maximize your profit. Like it
Yeah, well, the
really
way they're
seems like to
selling
me
these
they're
ships
gonna
and stuff.
choose to early access release at the exact point where selling retail copy of the game makes
Yeah.
sense economic. Like I don't. It seems like
I
that's
agree
what
with
it's
you.
all about at this point.
I agree with you. I think that was obvious pretty much from the beginning, where they had the Kickstarter going and it exceeded the goal, and then they started up their own website and said, "Hey, donate to us directly. Don't go through Kickstarter." And like it was just like
Yeah.
they were obviously milking it for everything it was worth, and they kept setting these stretch goals that like they're still doing them. They're still doing these stretch
Well-
goals, and they still come out with these absurd amount of ships. Go through their ship list. I'll link it to you, and look at how many fucking ships they have. Some of them aren't even for sale yet, or
They
maybe
seem
they
like
were in the
Valve
past
to
and they
me
aren't
in a
anymore.
way.
I don't know. Yeah, there's a Valve.
Like
yeah,
where-
Valve. Like, well, speaking of
Well,
Valve,
Gabe Newell and the Half-Life TF2, the core games that they made, that was initially the plan, but then they started making billions of dollars on in-game items, and they
Yeah.
had to change their plan just because it made sense to. Once Chris Roberts is making tens of millions of dollars just raking in donations from stupid people. I mean, why would you focus on anything besides that? It wouldn't make sense.
yeah. Let's move on because you brought it
Okay,
up,
all
and you forced me into a segue. Valve has started selling sprays in CS:GO. You heard about this? You hear about this?
I
hear about
saw
this?
your tweet about this, which is
Folks?
really all I needed, folk.
They're charging sprays. I think you get like 50 initially, and then past that, if you want it's per use. So you buy in like
Oh,
chunks
what?
of 50. Yeah. So you spend like however many dollars on 50 sprays, and that's how many sprays you can do. People are flipping out about this. People are real angry, and I understand it because it's microtransactions, which I fucking hate, and they're nickel and diming you per use. But who the fuck cares about
Exactly,
sprays in
right.
Counter-Strike? Who the fuck
First of all, they've been
cares?
gone since CS Source.
And I didn't miss them.
I missed them. I honestly
Did
did miss
you?
them because one of the highlights of any game was to like walk around the corner and see an animated GIF gay
the
porno
lady
spray. Yeah,
putting
yeah.
your tits like this and stuff like that. Yeah, sure.
All that. And plus, I actually I made one. I found this picture of a plastic baby doll that was like had its head smooshed in, so it looked really messed up. and I made different layers of it that like faded in and out and changed positions, and like this starry background that shifted
Sounds like the
around.
kind of thing that you
And I
would see
put it
on
up on the
CS:GO
wall.
spray.
Yeah. And I would just, I would put it up on the wall, and it was a good time.
Put it up on CT Spawn and Dust too.
And plus people would make their own sprays, and that was a cool part of the game to me, honestly.
I guess
At the time,
they've,
keep in mind this is back when I was like 14, so maybe it would
Yeah.
not be as cool anymore.
they've removed they've removed the ability to make your own anyway. I think they're all
Yeah,
official. It's like Overwatch style.
At that point, who would buy it?
I don't care. I don't know why anyone's remotely surprised when this is the game that has the skin marketplace for guns where people spend $500 for a knife skin. You want to talk about a waste of $500? At least you get a ship.
Still, that's a third as expensive. That is.
No, it's yeah. But
You could buy like 2 of the most expensive knife in the. No, wait.
you could buy 30 of the most
15,000. I
Well, I
forgot
don't know how
the
expensive
yeah
the
the
most
zero.
expensive one is, but yeah, you left a zero off there.
Jesus.
But still, you're buying something that just
Buy
looks
every
a
knife
little
in the
prettier
game
than the other
twice.
thing you
There
have.
you go.
Yeah, it's insane. I've never bought a skin in my life or felt the need to in Counter-Strike, and I certainly won't feel the need to buy a spray, and I don't play the game for either of those reasons, but I guess a lot of people do. I mean, I know that like the whole gun skin marketplace thing was like is people talk about that as if it breathed life into that game, like where like the population suddenly increased of people playing that game. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know a lot of people do care about their fucking gun skins. But yeah, I just don't give a shit. I could not care less what they're charging
Definitely.
for sprays and skins in CS:GO. That's not why I play the game, and I don't like to tell people how to play their games, but that should not be what you're playing Counter-Strike for. And if you are an insane person who needs to check out their priorities and get a girlfriend, man. Get out of your mom's basement and get a girlfriend. That's what I have to
Get
say.
laid, you nerd.
That's the advice from Push to Shout this week.
Well, thanks for watching and listening to our wisdom. Get laid, everybody, and good night.